University of Nevada. And I actually was in the Introductory to Integrated Healthcare with KP over the summer. So I was in that last cohort. Later in the evening, we're going to be joined by two other medical students who are also in the IHC program with me, Amanda and Angela, who was with us last week. So we're going to have different moderated questions, but if you guys have any questions regarding today's topic that you want to ask them, just like jot that down. Or if you have any questions regarding medical school, their journey, or anything like that, we'll have like the last 30 to 40 minutes to ask them questions. But other than that, we can begin. Also, I believe Melissa sent out a schedule, like a blank weekly schedule. If you guys haven't filled it out, please do so because it's gonna be part of our activity later or the second part of my presentation. And it'll be really helpful for you guys to have that as a way to kind of uh, reflect on your week and how you manage your time. Okay, so I'm gonna begin. Okay, so our objectives for today is to understand what a SMART goal is and to write them down. And we're going to create our own schedule and hopefully allocate our times a little bit better than we are. So we're going to begin. The first half of the presentation is going to be on SMART goals. So I do have a video. Hopefully the audio works.
Welcome back. So we've learned.
You guys can hear that, right? Yes? Okay.
That it's important to keep working through your frustrations by using the right learning strategies. The more you work through your frustration, the more your brain grows, right? But it can be difficult to work through that frustration without a clear direction. That's why it's important to make SMART goals. It's an acronym. Goes like this: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, timely. Because look, you can wish all you want and say, one day I'm gonna go to the moon, and you can want that like your life depended on it. But a wish is not a goal. An example of a moon plan that consists of SMART goals would go something like this. In 20 years, I will have studied enough physics and chemistry, flown jet planes in the Air Force, worked out 4 times a week, and gotten a job as an astronaut for NASA. And this will enable me to fly a spacecraft to the moon and put my feet on it for science reasons. Specific. Put your feet on the moon. Measurable. Are your feet touching the surface of the moon? Actionable. It is actionable, that is to say doable, to study physics and chemistry, enlist in the Air Force, and go to the gym. Realistic. It's hard, but it's not impossible to become an astronaut. Timely. Here's where more realism kicks in. You won't be able to go to the moon as an astronaut overnight. 20 years seems a little more reasonable. But let's take this back to a more sensible time scale and look at our friend Thinky Pinky. Hey, buddy. TP here is interested in pull-ups, wants to be able to lift their entire mass with just the arms, this one. But pull-ups are hard. So let's take a look at Thinky Pinky's reflection journal. Quote, I want to be able to do 2 consecutive pull-ups by the end of the year by practicing pull-ups at the gym 3 times per week. Why is this a SMART goal? S is for specific. TP wants to work on pull-ups, and they're not interested in biking or weight training. There's one skill that Thinky Pinky wants to work on, and that's pull-ups. M is for measurable. What's the metric for TP's success? 2 in a row. 2 pull-ups, one right after the other. You've either done it or you haven't. Measurable. A is for actionable. Can it be broken down into individual tasks? Yeah. Going to the gym 3 times a week to practice feels very actionable indeed. R is for realistic. TP's not training to lift a car, just some pull-ups. T is for timely. There's a time limit on this. Thinky Pinky wants to do this in a year's time. Altogether, that's a SMART goal you got there, TP. With the power of persistence, SMART goals, and the right kind of help, you can do anything you set your mind to. You can learn anything. Happy goal setting.
I love that video. Khan Academy can explain anything much better than I can, but hopefully you guys took a little bit of notes. But just to recap what the video was about. So SMART goals is an acronym and it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So I'm just going to quickly review what each of them mean, and then I'm going to show you guys an example related to healthcare. So as for specific, you want to make sure you set real deadlines, something that you can do in an allotted amount of time. Measurable, you have to make sure that it's something you can track. Attainable, it's a goal that can be challenging, but it is possible to attain. Realistic, you have to be honest with yourself. You need to know what you're capable of, and you need to know exactly how much time you have, which leads us to time bound. So make sure you give yourself a deadline, something again that is attainable. So here's an example regarding a SMART goal in healthcare. So you're going to develop a program that will have a patient navigator present in the KP Vallejo ER to increase the percentage of non-KP patients experiencing homelessness presenting at the KP Vallejo ER to be connected to resources and their medical homes at the FHQC, La Clínica de la Raza, by 80% by December 2025. That was a very long sentence, but you're going to, as you advance throughout, your careers, and if those of you going into any scientific research, you're going to see that SMART goals are very prevalent in the way we write. But in this specific example, we're going to go over the SMART goals. So for specific, if we were to break it down, we're talking about the patient navigator present at the ER. That's what we're talking about specifically. What are we measuring? Let me move this. Okay, so what are we measuring? We're looking at the percentage of non-KP patients that are experiencing homelessness at the Vallejo ER. And we want them to connect to resources and medical homes. That is what we will be, tracking throughout this whole experiment. Attainable. Is this something that is attainable? I would say yes, because you're focusing at one location, specifically the ER at Vallejo. And results focus. So this relates to the realistic component of the SMART goal. So the primary outcome is to increase the percentage of patients connected to resources and medical homes. This is something that realistically can be done by a team, right? And then finally, time bound. Let's say this SMART goal was written in 2024 and you're given a whole year. That is something that is realistic and is time bound. Does anyone have any questions on this example or the SMART goals before I move on? No? Okay. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So the previous example was related to healthcare and it's full of a lot of like jargon, but you can also apply SMART goals to your everyday life. For example, I have created and written down four examples that is probably something you guys have experienced at school. For one example, here in the top left corner, by the end of the month, I will join a student club organization. After joining an organization, I will attend at least one meeting every month. That is something that's attainable. You can track how many organizations you attend. There's a time limit, and there's a realistic goal, right? The next one is slightly shorter, but still falls into the SMART goal category. So I'll meet with each of my professors at least once during the course of the semester. Um, there's I could have made it a little bit longer, but you're still talking about, a specific goal. There is a time limit. I could have maybe included me with each of my professors in order to increase my grades or something like that, right? In the top right corner, I'll raise my GPA from a 2.7 to at least a 3.0 by earning no lower than a B in all four of my classes this semester. I will attend office hours for each course at least twice a month, join a study group, and track my grades on all my assessments, and I'll be using a spreadsheet weekly. So comparing to the previous example, that one is a little more specific. There are numerical values, time limits, and you have more than one item or event you can track, right? And then finally, I'm going to improve my time management skills by dedicating 1 hour each week to uninterrupted studying. At the end of the month, I will reflect on my focus levels and adjust the study routine as needed. Slightly different than the other examples, but again, you're tracking your study times, which is one of the acronyms, right, of the SMART goals. You have a time limit, you have a goal focus, and you're very specific. And this is realistic, an hour each weekend. That's that was pretty realistic study time. Um, does anyone have any questions before we go into breakout rooms?
Yeah, hi Lindsay.
No?
We have a question. So we were wondering kind of like the main difference between attainable and realistic, and I noticed that you like specified it as results focused. So is that kind of a better way to think about realistic? Because Alice was thinking, and I found it also that attainable and results focused seem pretty similar. So what are like the main differences of those two?
Are you specifically for this example, the KP one, or just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, so if I were here, you're right. Attainable and realistic are pretty similar. I think it also depends on the context. For example, if we're talking about like a research project, you're going to be it's going to look different than if you're kind of tracking down your grades. But if you're talking about attainable and the definition of, the SMART goals, so attainable, it's kind of like the astronaut one. To be an astronaut is a challenge, but it's possible you can do something. Um, let me see if I can word this better. Attainable is a goal that you can actually reach versus realistic is um let's see how can I word it? It is, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart moment, but let me gather my thoughts. Okay, so I would think about attainable as completing the challenge and realistic on how you reach that challenge. I think that is one way to kind of think about it. They are two different ends or sides of the coin, right? So I don't, I'm trying to like,
You could think of attainable as something like the astronaut, right? But the realistic part is like what next steps can you take that are realistic for you to achieve to get you to attain this goal? That's how you could think about it.
thank you for that. I couldn't word it because yes, they're very similar definitions. It's just the way you approach that goal that's a little different. Um, sorry, I did I answer your questions? I think the other person did it so much better than I did.
No, yeah, that's okay. That definitely makes sense. I feel like realistic is more so like you as an individual and what's realistic for you to attain that goal. Because it's like saying like you know what you're capable of. So based off knowing yourself and what you're capable of, what are you gonna do to reach that goal?
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it. I think realistic is individual based and attainable is more of an arbitrary societal like goal. I think you can think about them as two different, yeah, those two different ways. And I saw another hand go up.
Thank
It's
you.
Melissa. I just wanted to share what comes to my mind when I think about the R in SMART goal in terms of like being realistic and goal setting. If I was thinking about a SMART goal in terms of like getting fit, I probably wouldn't set my goal to something like go to the gym 30 times in a week for 30 minutes each time, just because there just isn't enough time for you to go to the gym like 30 times. It's also probably not healthy for you. It's not good for you. So that's what comes to my mind. Like, realistically, could I really fulfill this or achieve this goal?
Thank
Definitely
you,
want to set it
Melissa.
to something that you might be able to achieve.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, that's a great example. And another, I guess, study way you can think about it, attainable for like me personally as a medical student, we have like 5 to 8 hour lectures days sometimes. So attainable, finishing all my lectures, that's what is expected of me. And then realistically, I'll probably only review three a day. It's what I'm capable of doing. Um, thank you for bringing up that the nuances. It's similar but different, and I hope that kind of clarified it for everyone as well. Good. Okay. Um, let me go back. Okay. So everyone is in their groups, and I will ask for the facilitators on each of the campuses to help me out with this, but I have created SMART goals or scenarios, and I want you to write a SMART goal, in your groups or individual if you're individual. Um, let me open the document. Melissa, I don't think the facilitators have access to this document, correct? If not, I can just put it on the screen.
Yes, it looks like I'm not able to attach any documents in this meeting, but I did share it in the meeting invite. So if anyone has their laptops and you have access to the Teams invite, you should see the attachments for both the SMART goal scenarios and then for the schedule. And I
Thank
also
you.
shared those with campuses as well.
Thank you. So I have 8 examples. And then I guess it's up to the facilitators to pick which scenarios you guys want to use, and then for those individual, maybe pick one or two. Um, because we're in a time crunch, we'll probably only review one or two cases. So I'll give you guys, let's do 8 minutes. So at 5:33, we'll reconvene, but I'll just leave um this on my screen.
And sorry, just to clarify, we're just reviewing these, right?
No, so the activity is to read the scenario and to create a SMART goal. Maybe like a one sentence, how I had with the little bubbles.
Mhm.
That's kind of just an example.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're at about time. I'm gonna go back to my slides. Would anyone like to share their scenario or just their SMART goal? Maybe we can have two people share their SMART goals.
Would anyone like to volunteer to share?
If not, just for the sake of time, we can move on to the next activity. But thank you for your participation. I hope it was helpful in kind of understanding each of the components of SMART goals.
Would we be able to hear from Berkeley College or Laney College what you came up with as a group?
What? Oh, did we disconnect?
We can hear you.
Hold on. It disconnected. It's gonna look like we just left. I don't. I don't like this computer.
It's okay, we can hear you just fine.
Hold on, hold on.
They hear us?
Oh wait, they hear. Okay. Sorry, we're dealing with like a really tiny computer that does not like us right now. What is going on? Okay, okay. No, we figured it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're on the platform.
We said. Okay, hey Debbie. I hate that. Okay.
If we're having technical issues, that's okay. We can circle back if we have time, just so I can give the other medical students a chance to finish the panel. Again, thanks for those that participated. So we're gonna move on. Very quickly, talking about SMART goals. So the whole point of a SMART goal is to track your progress and attain your goal. But how do you measure this progress? This can look very different for everyone, and it really depends on what you like. So it is personal. Um, but I know people who share their goals with others. That way, others can keep them accountable. Some people write it down and display it on the wall. I remember when I was applying to medical school, I had a cork pin like this one here on the screen. I would have my SMART goals just like this sticky note, and then every day I would see it. I would have deadlines. I would have interviews, essays that need to be written, all that. It was kind of a way for me to keep myself accountable on a daily basis. Check in with yourself, set reminders on your Google calendars or your actual physical planners. If you said that I'm gonna go to an office hour twice in a week, at the end of the week, make sure you are looking back to see if that's something you attained. If not, look back into it and kind of figure out why. That kind of ties into time management, which will be our next topic, but just kind of, a heads up. And then adjust deadlines if needed. If you said that you're going to go to office hours twice a week, or yeah, twice a week, but you weren't able to, was it because the deadline was too soon for you? Was it a time issue? Was it, another issue? Was it an emergency that happened? So it's a moment for you to reflect at the end of the time frame that you had set for yourself. Um, what time is it? So it is 5:37. We don't have that much time because the next couple activities will take a little bit more time. But as a homework for you guys, I would like you guys to kind of reflect on maybe an academic SMART goals you would like to incorporate into your routine. Again, this is something that will tie into our next activity, but kind of just reflecting on your schedule. If, let's say, you have like 5 papers or 5 reading assignments that you have to do, realistically, how many can you do in the next 3 days? Or, like if you have to do a lab report, if is this something you can do in 3 hours? Maybe write one SMART goal that is related to academia that you can incorporate it into your weekly schedule. Um, okay, so let's move on. So the next topic is going to be time management. So what does time management mean? If we're looking at the actual definition is just a way to budget your time to be productive and realistic. Um, so for me anyway, I recommend with everyone, with all my mentees, I always tell them, either the night before or the morning of, make sure you write down like all the tasks that you had planned from your big calendar. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I had literally have like a daily notepad that I write down all the things I want to do in a day that I take off like my main calendar. And that's just how I manage my time on a daily and a weekly and a monthly basis. So in general, I time management looks different for everyone, but there are some general guidelines that I feel you can ask any student or any productive person that, they typically incorporate into their schedule. One, make sure you have clear priorities, like what are your goals for the week or the day or the month. Determine the type of learner you are. For example, I know that I cannot learn a new subject in a group setting, so I'm not going to allocate group, studying time in the first couple of days that I'm learning a new topic because that's not the type of learner I am. Create a schedule, obviously, like make sure that, if it's a busy week, make sure you write it down so you can have a, tangible way to keep yourself accountable. Uh, with that being said, we're all busy students, but you have to make sure you incorporate, one or two things a week or, one thing daily that relates to self-care, exercise, or a hobby. Um, And schedule sleeping. Um, I'm sure we all heard it, 7 to 8 hours a night is like a perfect amount of time to sleep. Some people take naps if they do sleep a couple hours, less because they were up studying late, but make sure you schedule and sleep because that is such an important way to rejuvenate and restore, your brain functions and then your physical health as well. And then finally, be realistic. School is probably the most important part of our lives in this point of our career. It's probably the thing that takes up the most time, but we all have other responsibilities. For example, do you have to go grocery shopping? Do you have chores that you have to do if you live alone or with roommates? Meal time, do you meal prep your meals or do you cook every night? And family, we all have families. Some people probably have children or, hang out with their parents or their siblings. Like, make sure you incorporate all these aspects into your schedule. So I shared with you guys this weekly schedule that I got off like Canva, and I hope you guys all filled it up with the schedule you're currently doing. But I want you guys to kind of take it out, and we're going to be doing a couple activities with it. So, based on your schedule, how much time are you spending in a week? Do you feel like every single day you're being productive? Were you able to accomplish everything you set to do? Yes or no? Is there like a big gap during the week that, maybe you thought you were being productive, but you actually were scrolling on TikTok or you're watching, a movie when you weren't, supposed to, or you didn't schedule it originally. I want you guys to kind of look into your schedule, take a moment or two to, highlight, circle, and then while you are looking at your schedule, I want you to keep these questions in mind. What are your non-negotiables for a week? This could mean every Sunday I have family dinner with my grandma, and that takes 2 hours. Like, this is a non-negotiable for me. Or maybe I have to walk my dog 3 times a day, and that's also a non-negotiable for me. Like, I want you to keep that in mind, like what is very important to you to do every single day or every week. I also want you to look into how much free time did you actually have during the week. Maybe it could be like every Wednesday I have like this 4 hour gap that I didn't really do much. Maybe I was just at the library, hanging out with some friends in between classes. I want you to kind of take note how much free time you had. Did you have enough time to study during the week or every single day? Um, were you studying maybe 1 hour on Monday, but maybe four on Wednesday? Because we have classes, I'm pretty sure the days you guys study the most is maybe a Saturday or a Sunday. The next question I want you guys to think about is what tasks did you want to do but did not get a chance to? For example, I wanted to go grocery shopping on Monday, but lecture took too long, so I ended up postponing it on Wednesday, which is actually my busy day, so I didn't get to study, something like that. I want you to also look into your schedule and see what tasks took longer than planned. Maybe um, you allotted an hour a day to review all your lectures. And I'm pretty sure your guys' schedule is a little different, but maybe you guys are taking a history class and a science class. Maybe your history lecture review took 30 minutes on average, but your science ones took like an hour and a half. Like, kind of look into that, see which ones took longer, which ones were a little bit faster. And again, take note of where did you have free time. We will not have time to, do this on here. But I want you guys to maybe get another uh like page of the schedule, and I want you guys to make a schedule for next week. Um, with all the previous questions in mind, like what did you want to add into your week? Maybe you didn't have time to, like you're an avid runner, but you didn't have enough time to run 5 miles this week, but it's something you want to incorporate into your next week's. Um, and then what things are you going to do regardless, which kind of ties back into what are your non-negotiables? Were you able to do it this week or were you not able to do it? Kind of take that into your account. And then when you are making a schedule and you're thinking about like your study time, like, what are some things in your environment that help you be more productive than you think you are? For example, do you like to study with music or with no noise? Do you work best working alone or in a group? For example, I am not very good at working in a group because I get distracted really easily. I'm more of a solo studier. So I know if I'm going to be in a group setting, I'm probably not going to be as productive as I would like to be. Are you able to concentrate better in the mornings or afternoon? I have friends that are night owls and they'll go to bed at 3 a.m. and wake up around 11. Um, but they're very productive at night. Me, on the other hand, I go to bed around 11, ideally wake up around 6 so I can be productive before I go to, campus. Do you need to be active before you start studying? There's a lot of people that like to do exercise before they sit down and like lock into their lectures. Is this something that you have to do? Maybe you need to take a walk um, before you start studying. And finally, think about like, do you need a tutor? Is this, maybe once this semester you're taking a very hard subject like organic chemistry and you need a tutor, so that's something you have to incorporate each week. So again, we're not going to have time to do this activity, but hopefully you guys are able to use the weekly schedule, this template to kind of create next week's schedule with the questions and prompts that I kind of discussed. Like, make sure you incorporate your class schedule, non-negotiables, activities you have to do, like, I don't know, maybe you have to go to the bank this week. Make sure you incorporate that. How much time does it take you to walk to class or back home? Like, does this take up a lot of time that you feel like you have to allot like 30 minutes into commute? And if anyone would like a copy of the questions, I'm sure Melissa can share with you guys my slides. Does anyone have questions before we move on? No? Okay. So again, um let's see, it's five. We'll skip this one, but essentially I wanted since you guys are in your groups, kind of to discuss what are some struggles and successes you've had with time management. As one of the Q&A questions, their med students, we're going to be talking about like work-life balance and how, um, we each are able to balance that. Okay, so does anyone have questions before we start the Q&A panel? I know it was a lot and I kind of sped through the last part, but if anyone has questions, this is the time before we move on. No? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I believe I saw Angela and Amanda come in. Thank you guys for joining. I don't know if you guys heard any of the content that I reviewed, but if you guys could introduce, the year you're at, school, hometown, and maybe the specialties you're interested in. Um, yeah, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Angela. I am currently a second year medical student at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. I am thinking between OBGYN and emergency medicine right now, but things could change in the next 2 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. So I'm also a second year. I'm attending Rocky Vista University, Montana College of Osteopathic Medicine, and I'm originally from SoCal, like the Riverside County area. And specialties that I'm interested in, also emergency medicine is one of them, possibly physical medicine and rehabilitation. But so, yeah.
And then on my end, I already introduced myself. I'm from Santa Rosa, California, so Northern Cal, and I'm currently in the Las Vegas area at Torrey University, Nevada. The specialties I'm interested in is family medicine or emergency. If I do family medicine, I'm thinking more urgent care, which still falls into the emergency medicine realm. And the school I attend is also an osteopathic school. So Amanda and Angela, again, thank you for joining me today and taking some time off your schedule. Um, I'm going to be facilitating the questions and I'll let you guys answer first. And then if I have anything else to add, I'll just, be adding my 2 cents. But I'll start with a fun question. Is there a hobby or an activity, self-care activity that you'd like to incorporate into your weekly or monthly schedule?
Yes, I actually do have something that I kind of swear by to keep me sane. I started doing my own nails when I was in high school, I would say. And then I got like really into it and everything. So I do like my own like gel nails, and that's kind of like my main form of self-care. I try to do them like once a month, and it does take like a couple hours, but I think like just setting aside that time like after an exam or something is really helpful for me, and I just like being able to also express myself through them. So yeah, it checks kind of like the self-care box and also like making sure that I have a balanced lifestyle and everything and making time for myself. Um, but yeah, that is something that I try to make some time for.
I didn't consider that being like a hobby because I just did mine too after my derm final. Oh, that's so cool. I'm gonna use that from now on. How about you, Amanda?
Yeah, so something that I like to do, or I guess that's a hobby, is just running. Yeah, like I think before I started med school, like I got back into running because it was something that I had done a lot in high school and then I kind of fell off in college, but then like I started again. And so yeah, like that's something that I am continuing to do now. It's a little hard because like Montana, the weather is like pretty wild. Sometimes it snows a lot. And so like we're almost in winter now, kind of. So yeah, I'm trying to run as much as I can, like outdoors, and then I'll probably transition indoors. But it's a really like good way for me to like de-stress, I feel like. Um, yeah. And it could be quick or long, depending on whatever you decide to run.
That's so funny. In Las Vegas, you can't run outside in the summer because it's so hot. And
God.
finally, I'm transitioning to outside running. Um, Thank you. Those are actually like really, I feel like a lot of us have similar hobbies in med school. When you guys are scheduling your week or your month or maybe your block, what tools do you use? Do you guys use physical planners, any apps, or maybe like Google Calendar? And which do you recommend? Have you done trial and error? How did you figure out what works for you?
For me, I have a like digital planner on my iPad. I have tried physical planners before, and I think it's just more convenient for me to just have a planner open in my on my iPad because I carry that everywhere with me. And it's like always in my bag. So I have that for like day-to-day tasks, and I also just like writing out everything that I want to do in a day, and then like the instant gratification of checking that box off. And then for like overall scheduling, it's I used to swear by my Google Calendar when I had like a Google email with my undergrad, and then now I have an Outlook email, so it's like the Outlook calendar, but I kind of use that pretty religiously too for like class scheduling and then also like meetings or like other extracurricular things. And also, for example, like today's meeting, I made sure to immediately put that on my calendar when Lindsay gave me the details. So just stuff like that, keeping things um like on track and everything works for me.
Yeah, I think I same with Angela, like we have the Outlook calendar. And so like that is pretty much like the calendar I guess I have to see like all the things that I have to do and like attend, whether that's like doing lectures or like going to class. Or sometimes like if I have meetings, then I'll just add it to the calendar. But I think like when it comes to studying and like writing down the things that I have to do, like I'll just physically write them out and make like a list for myself. And then, yeah, use that to kind of like guide my studies or day. Um, One calendar that I like used to use in college was like the passion planners. I don't know if you like if anyone has ever heard of those, but those are pretty helpful if you're someone that likes to like have your days set out like hour by hour. Um, so some people that works for them. Um, and yeah, like I know Google Calendar's pretty good, but I don't use that one too much. But I know like it really depends on the person, like if they're virtual or they just like things like written out.
Thank you. I'll do one more question before I open the floor to any of the students. But the next question is, how do you prioritize between lectures, labs, studying, personal responsibilities, hobbies? I know it's very different because we're in the block system versus maybe a semester system. But I can kind of start. So for me, like I know that after I watch a lecture, I can't jump straight into making notes. So I always schedule like third party resources to kind of teach me the lectures before. And like I alluded to before, um, I'm not very good at group settings, so you'll never catch me in like a group kind of learning the material. Uh, so that's kind of how I schedule, and we typically have 5 lectures a day. So I know I can't go through all of them, but I'll always probably put in like the 2 hardest ones a day, and then that's kind of how I schedule it based on like what I deem to be the hardest. Um, but yeah, that's me. What about you guys?
I'm pretty similar in the fact that I need to do my like initial studying and learning by myself. I'm also not very good at studying in a group. If I am in a group, it's usually just to like go over all the topics and kind of like quiz each other. But for the initial like learning phase, I'm also pretty much a self-studier, and for that, I think it depends like what I kind of tackle each day with like specific subjects and stuff. So like we have like different aspects of whatever system we're doing. So like if there's like a phys section, then I would like tap spend like one day tackling that, and then like the pathology I'd spend like longer on that. It's just like kind of knowing my weaknesses and strengths and then like setting aside the right amount of time for those. And then like as for, I think you also asked about personal responsibilities and everything. I think I just try to make time for like things that are kind of trivial but very necessary, like going to the grocery store or going to the gym a couple times a week, like stuff like that. I do try to pencil that into my schedule, and like I will literally try to like put it into like whatever free hour is available and then like make myself do that. But yeah, um, kind of similar thoughts to what you had to say, Lindsay.
Yeah, I think pigging back on that, like I'm also a individual learner. Yeah, I usually don't ever do groups just because I also like get distracted pretty easily. Um, but yeah, I think for I don't know if it's similar to you guys, but like our the way our course is like set up is where we watch like lectures on our own and then like we go to class just to kind of like not do any lectures, but it's more like open discussion and like case work and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I guess like my days like I wake up and do the lectures and then like I'll do all the lectures that are assigned to me and then I'll just see if there's any like ones that I don't understand as much and I'll make time to like watch a third party resource or look up a video on YouTube to help me to get like a better understanding of it. Um, and yeah, like I guess how I manage other things along with studying. So yeah, I like will study and set a time aside for the things that I like know that I have to do, and then I'll kind of fit in everything else um, around that, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, like whether that's like making time to call my parents or like to exercise or to go grocery shopping, I'll just set aside time around the things that I have to do. Yeah.
Thank you. So if anyone has any questions in the audience regarding time management skill in medical school or undergrad, since you guys are community college, or if you have any questions about either Angela or Amanda's journey to medical school, feel free to put in the chat or have your facilitator ask the question. If not, or what you guys think about your next question.
Oh,
Um,
we have a quick question. This is like about the MCAT and specifically. Alice was wondering, is there a specific website where you get like resources or training on that, or would that just be in the content of the classes that you would take?
that's actually a good question. So, I'll let Angela and Amanda talk about their experience with the MCAT, but I did the post back at UCSF, so we had classes scheduled that were tailored to our MCAT. But when it came to independent studying for me, we had like a month and a half after our classes to like focus on UWorld and do practice tests. So like my experience with the MCAT was a little different, but I don't know if either Angela or Amanda did self um like studying.
Yeah, I think in your undergrad classes, you're supposed to have covered all of the topics that are covered in the MCAT, but a lot of preparing for the MCAT is also just self-studying and self-preparation, unless you do like an outside course. But I didn't do one. Those seem like, besides like postbacks, I mean like an outside course in the summer of undergrad or whatever. I didn't do one of those. They were just kind of like super pricey. So, I didn't have the funds for that, but a lot of students for the MCAT will use like UWorld, like Lindsay brought up. That's kind of like a third party like question bank, and it's pretty gold standard for studying for the MCAT. And then there's also an outside flashcard resource called Anki. Um, that's for like a spaced repetition just to get down like difficult topics and stuff like that. So I think like for that, I would recommend just for MCAT studying, I would recommend having resources, but then not overloading yourself with too many resources, I would stick to like a question bank and maybe some sort of um, study method to make you understand the material. But other than that, I wouldn't like bombard yourself with too many resources. And then like also taking a lot of practice tests for like leading up to the exam.
Yeah, I think I remember. So when I was studying for the MCAT, like I also did a master's program, which is similar to like a postbac where you're taking like similar courses, but we didn't like we weren't prepping for the MCAT during that time. So I took it afterwards. And I remember using like AAMC or AAMC, I think that's what it's called. Um, they have like their own question banks, which are like really good to use because they're really like similar to what you'll see on the exam. And on that as well, like you get practice exams. So definitely like use all of those resources. And then similar to what Angela said, like Anki is a good one. It kind of just like after you learn your material, like it's a way for you to continue reviewing it through flashcards. And then I think for like actual content, I know like Khan Academy has um, videos um, that take you through like biology, physics, um, psychology, things like that. And then there's a section in the MCAT where it's like a cars section. And so like I use Jack Weston for that. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the name. It's been a long time, but yeah, so they have like actual passages for you to read, and I would do those pretty much every day because the test does require like a lot of reading, and so that helps you like get the endurance to do it. Um, and I think those are pretty much all the things that I use, but definitely like a lot of questions, a practice test, and watching videos if you like need to understand a topic a little bit better.
That was super helpful. Thank you. I was wondering, I heard you all say Anki, and I was looking up everything else as you were talking, but I didn't find the Anki one. How do you?
So Anki is like an app. It's spelled Anki. And yes, thank you, Angela. So you're gonna download the app, but then you have to create an account on Anki Hub, and then that's where you can get pre-made decks. You're gonna have to search up. I forgot what the MCAT one, but if you put MCAT, you'll see like popular ones that already have pre-made decks, and then it'll automatically download to your like application on your laptop or phone.
Yeah, I think the deck is miles down. Miles down deck, something like yeah.
It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah. And then tying it back to the topic of time management, I took the MCAT twice. What I did differently the second time was that I actually had a 3 month calendar to prep for my MCAT. So like that first month, I did a lot of content review of the areas I knew I was really weak in, such as physics. So I reviewed the topics that I were like very difficult, and then the month 2 and 3 of like MCAT prep, I scheduled in a practice test weekly, which is a lot, but I think I did 7 practice tests in total the second time around. And I did it every Saturday. So I like woke up at the crack of dawn. So it was like 6 a.m. to like 4. So that was my Saturdays. Sundays, I would, on an Excel sheet, I would have the questions I did wrong, the topic, such as like, so the subject, so like physics, if it was a physics one that I got wrong, what was the topic? So like Newton's third law, for example. And then on the other column, I would put like where I can find the material to review and like, and then I would go through like A, B, C, D, like which ones, why is it wrong? Why is it right? It was a lot, but I really needed discipline, or I had a lot of discipline at the time. So that's kind of how I scheduled, and I jumped by like 6 points by doing that. So it was, time management really helps when you're doing the MCAT. Does anyone else have questions? Again, open floor to anything because we won't have another panel until maybe April of, I remember Dr. Gonzalez's schedule. If not, I can ask another question regarding our topic for today. Um, so Angela, Amanda, do you either of you do research or participate in extracurriculars such as clubs, organizations, conferences, and how often do you do it? And do you find that it's beneficial in your role as a medical student?
This is really funny because I was just talking to my friend about how every evening this week I have something outside of school. But um, yeah, I do participate in extracurriculars. I honestly think that is also something that keeps me sane. Like it's not just studying all the time for medical school. But yeah, I did like remote summer research. And then I'm also one of my major extracurriculars during the school year is I'm part of our student government. So that takes up a decent amount of my time. And then I'm also a club president on my campus. So just like organizations and leadership outside of school as well. I think that it is, wait, I forgot what you were asking specifically.
Do you find that it keeps you sane? Does it like give you the social aspect maybe? And do you ever find that you fall behind maybe, or how do you book these extracurriculars into your already busy schedule?
Yeah, no, very valid questions. I do think it takes up time in my week, but it isn't like a insufferable amount of time where I feel like I am falling behind with schoolwork. Honestly, I treat it as a break and also an opportunity to kind of work with my peers outside of studying all the time in schoolwork. And like Lindsay had touched on, it's a great way to socialize as well. And one of the other clubs that I'm involved with at my campus is kind of like a um like since I'm part of the executive board as a second year student, a lot of my time during the club meetings are kind of like teaching the first year students with like OMM and history and physical exam skills. So I think that helps me because it not only like reinforces the material for me, but I'm also able to kind of like pass it forward to the first year students who I was once in their shoes. So like that makes me feel a little bit more grateful. And yeah, I just like working with the students on my campus, and then also being part of the student government has allowed me to work with the faculty and administration too, and that's been helpful. Um, but yeah, I would recommend getting involved in extracurriculars. But I will say in the first couple of months of medical school, I did just focus on like figuring out how to study, figuring out my classes and like what worked best for me and like time management. And then that I was able to incorporate more extracurricular activities.
Yeah, so I am also involved in research and then also in a couple different clubs. One of them is LMSA, and then one of them is our emergency medicine interest group. And so, yeah, I really enjoy being involved in school. I think it's a way for you to, like, similar to what Angela said, kind of like collaborate with your peers and just make friends, especially if you're involved in like things that really interest you and that you're passionate about, because you're going to end up meeting people that are like also passionate about the same things. And so I think that's really helped like my journey in school and just make it like a better one. And yeah, I think along with that, like being involved in different things, like it can take up a lot of time, but I think um, if you're, good at time management, then like you'll be able to make time for these things and it'll be kind of like your period of like rest from studying or just like having a fun time versus always like studying, 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 because that can also lead to like burnout. Um, so yeah, like I enjoy it. Yeah.
I'm also one of the chairs for our Latino Medical Student Association, so that's been very fulfilling. And then if you are a pre-med, your campuses probably have the pre-med chapters. So if you really want to find like a mentor, uh, that if you identify as a Latino, I'm pretty sure other like ethnic pre-med groups also have it, but at least for the LMSA portion, like a lot of undergrad institutions have their chapters. So if you want like a med school mentor, if you're involved with them, that's like a great way to find mentorship. Tying it back to last week's topic. Um, but also like when you're in professional school, like med school or like maybe PT or any other like professional pathway you choose to go to, a lot of the times your schedule is based on like what you set it to be. For example, like research, I am doing a research project right now, but right now we're in the early stages, so I'm reading articles like maybe like once a day, and then like by the end of the month I should accumulate about 10 at that point. So it's like really based on like when I have free time during the day. If I find myself having a gap between like a class and a meeting, that's probably when I'm gonna read, a couple pages of a paper that I really like, and then I would continue on whenever I have time. So it's like being very proactive with my schedule because I have so many things scheduled. Like Angela said, this week I found myself like committed to like so many different like outside school stuff. So I do have to be proactive with my schedule in that sense as well. Um, yeah, does anyone have any other questions before? Oh, Melissa?
I was just wondering if you all could share any pre-med, either volunteer or work experience that you have. Like, did you volunteer at a hospital? Did you get any type of certification, like an MA or like a CNA certification? Were you like a mentor or anything? Any like tips you guys can share in terms of pre-med experience?
Yeah, I can start this one. So I was very involved in, I went to UC Santa Barbara for undergrad, and there's a club called Los Curanderos. So it was tailored to pre-health students that speak Spanish and identify as Latinx. So I was very involved in that, and we had a mentor-mentee program where local physicians would, pair up either because they went to Santa Barbara and are alum, or were just residents that wanted to be involved. So that was one way I got involved. Because I was very active in the chapter, whenever there was limited volunteer spots, such as like a flu clinic during the COVID, like right after we were able to go back to campus after COVID, we helped with COVID vaccinations, which is such a really good like opportunity, and tattoo removal clinics through the Family Med Clinic that uh, collaborated with our organization. So I would recommend finding your local pre-health or pre-med club and getting really involved. And if you don't have, like, if they don't have mentorship, maybe create one and reach out to like local hospitals or clinics. A lot of like the doctors, and speaking from experience, and like medical students actually, don't mind taking on multiple mentees, which is, really great for you guys. And then I think then, yeah, I'll let Amanda and Angela go.
Yeah, so so some things that I was involved in as a pre-med, I did a lot of tutoring. I would kind of go throughout, well, I guess so. There was a 4-year gap from undergrad to going into medical school, so I've kind of like had a lot of different experiences and like in different locations as well. So the tutoring, I did some in undergrad because there was like organizations on campus that did tutoring around the LA community. And then once I graduated undergrad, I started doing tutoring more in the area that I'm from, which is like Riverside County area. So that was just a way for me to, or something that I really enjoyed doing, just like being able to teach others. And I think that as a pre-med, you don't always have to have everything related to like the clinical side of it, but it could also be like community service or like teaching, things like that. So that was something that I was involved in. I also did some work as a scribe, and that kind of really solidified like why I wanted to go into medicine because it was like real hands-on experience, like in the hospitals. So if you ever like get the chance to like apply for a job as a scribe or anything like that, I think it could be really beneficial. And I'm trying to think what else. before starting medical school, I was like a peer support specialist for like a mental health clinic. Um, and so that like was similar, or that was also like clinical related. Um, but it was like a different, it was more like psychiatry focused, and just also like community work as well. Um, and I'm trying to think of other things. During undergrad, I was involved in like a public health program. It was called like the UCLA Public Health Scholars Program, and they offer it to like any, like you don't have to be going to UCLA to be a part of it. And it's a program that they do every year. And that was something that I really enjoyed. And it just helped you to learn more about like public health and things like that.
Yeah, as for me, my service and volunteering kind of came from my work as an EMT. That was like a license that I got in undergrad, emergency medical technician. I got that through my school. I went to Case Western Reserve University. I was lucky enough that they had a program on campus for EMS. And we also had an on-campus like ambulance service and everything. So I also worked with them. And then I worked with an outside private ambulance company as well. Did a lot of my healthcare and service work through them. And then outside of that, I also did research. I was in one lab throughout my entire undergrad, and then during my gap year, I worked full time in another local lab at the Cleveland Clinic, and I did full-time research there. And then I also was involved in some public health work in one of my summers in undergrad. I was involved in local public health research, and then I was also president of a club on campus that did a lot of public health panels and community education and everything like that. So, yeah.
I also want to add, I did get certified as an emergency medicine scribe during my gap year. So if anyone, I know in Northern California is pretty popular. I don't know about SoCal. So Amanda, you're from SoCal. Maybe you can verify it. But I was employed through Scribe America, and they actually certify you. And it was like, I think maybe a month worth of classes where they kind of teach you the acronyms and then the proper way to do soap notes. And when I started medical school last year, because I was a scribe for a whole year in the ED where everything was really fast paced, I actually didn't really struggle with the note writing process because I had that experience, which is like really great. Um, so yeah, I did Scribe America. I don't know about you, Amanda.
Yeah, I actually did Scribe America too, with in the ER department as well. And yeah, it was similar to like what you said, where we had like a lot of hours of like classroom time and just like training for maybe like a month or over a month, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a similar experience.
Um, and then I see someone asked a question, is clinical hours required for medical school? Yes and no. I think it's a very soft requirement, meaning that I think that maybe they expect maybe like 100 or something hours, but I think they can, if you have some form of experience within the healthcare, whether it's, you did tutoring or you did scribe work or um, volunteer works, I think that's okay. I didn't really have a lot of my interviewers ask me about clinical hours. I think they focus mostly on, for me personally, they focus a lot of my non-healthcare related activities. For example, they asked about my research in undergrad, so I worked in a fungi laboratory and with butterflies, and they asked a lot of questions about that because that was pretty interesting. They asked about my time in my postbac program, my role as a scribe, and I was lucky enough that one of my mentors from high school asked me to teach during my gap year to like health related topics to elementary students. So they asked a lot about that and teaching the what it felt like teaching little kids, which was honestly the hardest thing I've ever done. But those were kind of more the topics that I was asked about, not really clinical hours. And then I
Yeah,
don't know
I kind
about
of feel like the clinical hours is kind of just like checking a box indirectly for your application. Like, I don't think they explicitly say you need X amount of hours, but it is kind of expected for everyone to have some sort of clinical experience. But I do think that they tend to like be more attracted to and also ask questions about those parts of your application that stand out amongst other applicants. Because if everyone has like hospital volunteering, then they're not going to ask everyone about the same experience. But yeah.
does anyone else have questions? We have time, 7 more minutes. I'll leave it up to you guys. I guess last week we had an MD student, and this week we're all DO students. So, Angela or Amanda, maybe you guys can, one of you explain what is the difference between an MD and DO for those that maybe don't know the differences. Because we're all medical students, and I think most of us are like, we're year one, year two, but like, I there is a difference, but at the same time, there isn't.
Okay, here goes. Osteopathic medical students will get a DO degree instead of an MD degree, but the both of them are equivalent as physician degrees. We get taught the same science and preclinical year material. So like our first 2 years are also book years and just studying the content. We take a different board exam or like through a different organization called Comlex instead of USMLE, but a lot of DO students also take the USMLE exam sequence just to be kind of like on the same level as an app from an application perspective, and also like depending on what specialty you kind of want to go into. So we get taught all of the same pathophysiology material. We have an extra course in our curriculum called osteopathic manipulation or something along those lines. Um, Osteopathic manipulative medicine. And there we learn more about like how the body functions as a whole and how different systems play a role in like each of like how different systems are all like intertwined and play a role in each other. And then we learn about different techniques and ways to diagnose and manipulate the body when um, maybe some other allopathic medical treatments are not working. And we learn about like different like somatic dysfunctions, um, just different ways that our body can show pathology without like what's the word? Like strict diagnoses and stuff. Um, and so that's like a whole other course that we get that the MD students do not get. And then one big thing that they love saying is just learning about the body, the mind, and the spirit, and how it all intertwines. And yeah, feel free to add something.
That was great, Angela. I always tell people we're just taught how to use our hands versus the MDs maybe don't have a like a stricter objectives in terms of like palpations. We learn how to feel like when your muscles are tense, or if you have pain, for example, if you have back pain, we can feel like down your vertebra and be like, oh, maybe, one vertebrae seems a little warmer than other. And then we learn how to realign it to maybe diminish the amount of pain you may have versus like an MD, if you go to them, you're like, I have back pain. The first thing they're going to do is give you like a steroid shot or some like pain medications. We try to correct it um, naturally because your body has the ability to heal itself. And that's how I think about OMM. It's an extra skill. A lot of people who do go the DO path don't end up using OMM in their practice after they graduate, and a lot do. It really is dependent on like if you really liked it or not. And then Amanda, do you have any way to explain it differently?
Um, I mean, I would say like similar to what you said, like it is very hands-on, and I think like yes, we're learning all the same things, but I think that we do get more focus on like the anatomy portion of it. Like we really do like learn all of the muscles of the body and like how they function and how they like influence other parts of the body. Um, and so yeah, it's kind of like a different way of like when in the future when you're like treating your patients, like a different way of thinking about it. And yeah, like it's like yeah, I guess I don't have much else to add, but yeah, like I would say it's more like anatomy focused and focused on like your body versus like an allopathic school that may not like focus too much on that. But other than that, like the same, like we're learning the same curriculum and like we have the same like blocks. And when we go on to take like the board exams, they're similar, the USMLE and versus the complex, but the complex will have that extra portion of like osteopathic stuff. And that's pretty much the difference.
If anything, just learning OMM is pretty good. If you choose not to do it in practice, you can treat your friends and family. I know a lot of my attendings, that's what they tell me. Last year when I went to an LMSA conference in Riverside, all my MD friends that we did the post back together, we were all in one hotel room and I was literally cracking bags and doing OMM to them and like fixing their foot pain. And a lot of them are like, I think I have, like plantar fasciitis. Like, can you fix this? And like, those are one of the things I know how to do now. A lot of them are like, I've been having a lot of neck pain. I know how to like un tensify, if that's a word, your muscles and kind of relax it. And the next day they text me and they're like, oh my God, this is like the first morning I woke up without a headache. I'm like, you guys, it's OMM. And they're all in the MD pass. So that's kind of a funny story. Like, I should have started charging them since last year. With that being said, we are at 6:30. Thank you, Amanda and Angela, for joining me. I really appreciate the help. And everyone else, if there's any last minute questions, you guys can email us as well. Um, I shared my email last week, but Melissa, if you want to send it to everyone, that's fine with me.
Yes, I can add your email addresses to the chat in case anyone wants to reach out to them if you have any questions after the meeting.
Awesome. Again, thank you everyone for bearing with me for 2 weeks. I'll see you guys again in April. I'm not entirely sure the structure of that, but it will be imposter syndrome in medical school and undergrad. And yeah, all right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you
evening.
for having me.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You